Welcome pre-cal students to the homework help video, page 575, numbers 1 through 31 on. Have your books open to that page, please. Have your homework out, pencils, calculators, notes, everything else that you need. And let's go ahead and see if we can't get you a little help on the problems that you're struggling with, okay? Let's start off with numbers 1 through 19, the odds. The directions say find each of the following exactly in radians and in degrees. So let's go ahead and get started. There's the chart that we use. And let's see what we got. First of all, we're going to rewrite the problem so that it's sine of an angle x equals negative square root of 3 over 2. We'll come over here, and sine is always going to be first or fourth quadrant. And we realize because we have a negative sign right here, we're going to be in the fourth quadrant right here. Now, sine of what angle gives me square root of 3 over 2? Well, sine is right here. Here it is. Sine of 60 gives me square root of 3 over 2. Now, the only problem is I want a negative square root of 3 over 2. So I come down here to my triangle in quadrant 4. I put 60 on the inside. And then I rotate down like this until I hit the hypotenuse, which is this line right here, or the terminal side right there. And so my answer is negative 60 degrees. Or, if you change it to radians, negative pi over 3. Not too bad, okay? Let's try another one. Number 3. Tangent negative 1 equals 1. Now, this is going to be interesting. First of all, let's go ahead and rewrite the problem so that we have tangent of angle x equals 1. So I'm looking for an angle that when I take the tangent of it, I get 1. Now we realize tangent is in the first and fourth quadrants, but I'm dealing with a positive 1 right here, so I know that I am going to be in the first quadrant, which is right here. All right. So when does tangent give me out 1? Well, here's tangent. Looks like 45 degrees. Tangent of 45 degrees is 1. So x equals 45 degrees, or pi over 4. We don't have to worry about writing a triangle here, changing anything. If it's in the first quadrant, then the answer is exactly like it is, like this, okay? All right, let's try number 5. First of all, let's go ahead and get our chart up here. Next, let's go ahead and rewrite the problem. Cosine of x equals square root of 2 over 2. Now, let's not forget that cotangent is dealing with quadrants 1 and 2. I notice right away I have a positive square root of 2 over 2, so I'm not going to use this quadrant. I will be over here in quadrant 1. Now, when do I get the square root of 2 over 2? Cosine. Here it is. Cosine of 45 degrees is square root of 2 over 2. So my answer is simply 45 degrees, or the radians, of course, would be pi over 4. So there's my two answers right there. One is degrees and one is radians. Number 7. Next, we're going to put our chart up. This will be interesting. I wonder how you guys did on this. Do you notice that nowhere do we have 0 on our table here, on our chart? Nowhere. So when that happens, then feel free to go ahead and use your calculator. Remember? So we hit second tangent. So up pops on our screen tangent negative 1. Parentheses, and then go ahead and type, well, I guess we should have first of all rewritten the problem over here so we can see it. So tangent of angle x equals 0. Looking for an angle, so we type in second tangent into our calculators, and then a 0. And when we do that, we're going to get out a 0. Okay? So tangent of 0, hit enter on your calculator, and you'll get out 0. Now think about this for a second, guys. If I was converting 0 inches to 0 feet, if I have 0 inches, how many feet do I have? 0. If I'm converting 0 feet to 0 miles, if I have 0 feet, how many miles do I have? 0. So if I have 0 degrees, then how many radians would I have? Well, 0. I mean, it's just common sense. So 0 degrees, 0 radians, you'll get the exact same answer. Okay, moving on to number 9. Now let's go ahead and get our table up here real quick, and then next let's rewrite our problem. So really we're looking for an angle so that when you take the cosine of that angle, you get square root of 3 over 2. Please don't forget that cosine deals with quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. Next, I notice I have a positive square root of 3 over 2, so I'm not going to be dealing with quadrant 2. I will be in quadrant 1. Now, when does cosine give me the square root of 3 over 2? Well, cosine of 30 degrees is square root of 3 over 2. So my answer would be 30 degrees, or, if you have it in radians, pi over 6. Moving on to number 11. Cosecant of negative 1 equals 2. Now let's go ahead and get our chart up here quickly. Let's rewrite the problem. We're looking for cosecant of x equals 2. And of course, cosecant is the inverse of sine, and they deal with quadrants 1 and 4. Now, we notice that the 2 here is positive, so I am going to not worry about the fourth quadrant. I will be in the first quadrant. And when do I get 2? When I take the cosecant of, here it is, the cosecant of 30 degrees gives me a 2. So my answer is going to be 30 degrees, or if you want it in radians, the answer would be pi over 6. Moving on to number 13. Now, on number 13, the first thing that you do is we rewrite the problem. Cotangent of an angle equals negative square root of 3. And of course, we realize cotangent is the inverse of tangent, so we're using quadrants 1 and 4. And then look at this. We notice the square root of 3 is negative, so we know we're not going to be in quadrant 1. We're definitely going to be in quadrant 4. All right? Now, when does cotangent give me out square root of 3? Well, when I take, here it is, when I take the cotangent of 30 degrees, I get square root of 3. But I don't want square root of 3, I want negative square root of 3. So come here to your fourth quadrant, go ahead and put the degrees inside your triangle, 30 degrees, and then find the reference angle. So rotate down until you hit the terminal side, which is right here, and we see that negative 30, negative 30 degrees is what you want. Or, of course, the radians would simply be negative pi over 6. Negative pi over 6. Okay, number 15. Let's go ahead and rewrite our equation. Hopefully this helps you. So sine of an angle equals negative 1/2. And then we come over here and get a visual. We remember that sine deals with quadrant 1 and quadrant 4. And then we notice we have a negative 1/2 right here. A negative 1/2, so we're not going to use quadrant 1. We're going to use quadrant 4. Now, when does sine give me out 1/2? Here it is. The sine of 30 is 1/2. So I know my answer is 30, but hold it. I don't want a positive 1/2. I want a negative 1/2. So I'm going to go ahead and write that 30 inside my triangle, then rotate down and find the reference angle. So it would be negative 30. So the sine of negative 30 degrees equals negative 1/2. Or if you want it in radians, negative 30 degrees would be negative pi over 6. All right, very good. Moving on to number 17. Let's go ahead and rewrite the problem here. Cosine of an angle equals 0. And look, well, first of all, let's come up here. Cosine is definitely using quadrants 1 and 2. And look at this. There is no 0 down here on your table. So that's when we use our calculators. Go ahead and hit second cosine. And when you do that, up pops cosine negative 1. Then put 0. All right? So second cosine would give you 90 degrees. And of course, we can change that to radians pretty easily. We know 90 degrees is pi over 2. So there we go. There's our two answers. This was just a calculator problem. Number 19, secant, inverse secant of 2. Let's go ahead and rewrite the problem as secant of x equals 2. And then secant and cosine are inverse functions. So we know that we have our boundaries for cosine or secant will be quadrants 1 and 2, like this. So there we are. And then we notice this 2 is a positive right here. So we know we're going to stay in quadrant number 1. Now, when does secant give me out a 2? Here it is right here. The secant of 60 is 2. So the 1 answer, or the degree answer, would be 60 degrees. The radian answer, of course, would be pi over 3. All right. Okay, moving on to number 21. Now we're getting into calculator problems. So 21, the next 6 problems, I believe, are going to be calculator problems. Okay, let's continue now with number 21. Of course, it's calculator problems. So, first of all, make sure you're in the degree mode. I guess you would hit second tangent, and up would pop tangent to the -1, and then you type in 0.3673, just like that. Hit enter, and you will get 20.2 degrees. Now, switch your modes over to radians. Type the exact same thing in, and you will get 0.3520 radians. So this is radians, and this is degrees. All right. I'm not trying to go too fast or be impatient, but I really can't make these any harder than they are. They're actually pretty difficult. So, and I really don't care where you round, except the directions said to round your radians to 4 decimal places and your degrees to 1 decimal place. So I'm just doing what the directions said. All right, number 23, you would hit second sign on your calculator. So up would pop sign -1 to the parentheses, and then type in 0.9613 and hit enter. If you're in the degree mode, up will pop 74.0 degrees, and if you're in the radian mode, up will pop 1.2917. Now they do want both of these answers, so you're practicing this over and over. All right, number 25. You would hit second cosine, and up on your screen would pop cosine -1, then type -0.9810 and hit enter. Now if you're in the degree mode, you will get 168.8 degrees, and if you're in the radian mode, you will get 2.9463. All right? All right, let's continue on to number 27. Now this one, guys, is a little trickier, so please watch. We don't have cosecant on our calculator. You understand that? So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the problem as cosine of x equals -0.627. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. -6.2774. Okay, we know that inverse cosecant means cosine of an angle equals this. Next, because we do not have a cosecant button, I'm going to flip cosecant, and you flip it by writing the inverse of cosecant, and the inverse of cosecant is sine, but if you flip one side, you must flip the other side. Now, I don't care where you put the negative sign. You can put it up top if you would like to, or you may put it in the bottom. It really doesn't matter, just don't put it in both places, okay? So now that I've rewritten the problem, I'm going to have to pause the video. My sons are fighting in the back room. Okay, I'm back, and here we go. Now, so now that we have rewritten the problem as in terms of sign, we can now use our calculator. So hit second sign, and the reason we hit second sign is because we're looking for an angle. Whenever you're looking for an angle, you hit second sign, and that pops this on your calculator. Then hit -1, then divide, then type in 6.2774, close your parentheses, and hit enter. Now, if you're in the degree mode, you will get -9.2 degrees. And if you're in the radian mode, you will get -0.1600. And there we go. Moving on to number 29. All right, tangent of -1, of course, we simply hit second tangent, and up pops tangent -1 parentheses, and then type in 1.091 and hit enter. Now, if you do that correctly, for the degrees, if you're in degree mode, you should get 47.5 degrees. And if you're in the radian mode, you should get 0.8289 radians. All right? And that would be number 29. And the last one, sine inverse sine. So we know with our calculator, we're going to hit second sine, and up pops sine to the -1 with a parentheses. Then type in -0.8192 and hit enter. Now, if you're in the degree mode, you will get -55 degrees. And if you're in the radian mode, you will get -0.9600 radians. And of course, you need both of those for all of the problems, okay? So that's it. I hope this homework video has been a help to you. Please call or email if you have any questions.